Hey, FreightWaves fans, welcome to Monday edition here at Freight Alley. We are coming live to you here on our very first day of being in headquarters 2, right above Freight Alley technically. Let's give them a lay of the land, look at the buzz of what is happening right here. There is so much action and activity here as we are getting ready for Transparency 19. If you haven't heard about Transparency 19, where have you been? It is happening May 6th through 8th in Atlanta, Georgia. It is the hottest. I dare you to try to find a more innovative and cool conference in all things freight and tech in the logistics industry. You won't be able to find it, and if anybody thinks they have, I'd like to know. Today, we are joined by Craig Fuller, CEO and founder of FreightWaves. He's going to get us some data, and also the Sultan of Sonar, Zach Strickland. So let's begin. Craig, welcome.
Well, Chad, this is such a special day. So first of all, this marks our 3-year anniversary. So on Friday of last week, I came home to my now wife, we weren't married at the time, and said, I want to start this business. And she tried to talk me out of it. But then after a few minutes of being in shock, she was supportive, and she's been great ever since. In fact, I credit a lot of the success to her encouragement. And based
upon that first name and the way it looked, I'm sure glad that you've made some pivots since then.
Yeah, the Magenta was inspired by John Legere, the CEO of T-Mobile, who just has, I think, a really cool brand. And so that was sort of the idea behind it, but it just didn't look good. It's really ugly, and we're glad we pivoted. But look at this place. This is gorgeous. I mean, this was an old nightclub that we converted into a newsroom. This is our news floor. And so what you have going on here, we'll give a full, we're still setting up. In fact, people are still unpacking boxes as we speak. Tomorrow, we'll give you the full tour of Freight Alley, which is our headquarters here in Chattanooga, Tennessee. We're really excited. What's interesting is we just counted off the desks, and we have in this room, we only have 4 desks left.
Wow.
So we're tight on space already, but that's good. There's a lot of space in this building that we have not yet taken advantage of.
Literally just moved in over the weekend, so it's exciting to see. What do you have for us?
Yeah, so tomorrow we'll give you the full tour. Really excited. Tune in tomorrow to get the tour. But let's talk data. So one of the things that we've tried to do with Sonar is inform the market of what's happening by bringing in disparate and differing data sets. And so one of the things that's important is we get asked often, where does our data come from? It comes from a lot of different sources. It's not exclusive to one source or 2 sources, hundreds of sources, and sometimes and often a lot of the data is compiled by bringing in different sources and articulating it. What we're going to talk about today was, I think, shockingly interesting. And one of the things that's happens in the trucking space is that everybody's trying to figure out capacity growth over time. Are new trucks entering the market and increasing capacity, or are they leaving the market? And is the slowdown in the drop in rates or slowdown in market conditions what everybody talks about, sort of the broad economy versus my economy? When rates are softening and market conditions are softening, for me, it doesn't mean the economy is softening. It means my conditions are softening because it's a function of supply and demand. And so one of the ways to understand supply is to look at new truck orders. It is the most reliable barometer of new supply in the market, far more than anything else, because it determines, because of the consistent turnover of trucks, really determines what's happened in the broader market.
Would you say it's like a leading indicator as well, because sometimes those orders get backlogged and maybe there's a delay in the orders?
For certain, it is a leading indicator, but it's also a reliable barometer to just forward capacity in the market and current capacity. Because you think about it, when market conditions are good, fleets, particularly the large fleets, are the ones that tend to buy the new trucks. They're buying the brand new trucks and they're adding capacity, and they run them, and in about 3 to 5 years they'll send them into the secondary market. So new truck orders are a really reliable barometer of freight activity. And so one of the data sources that we partnered with recently is ACT, a company that tracks truck orders and the OEM market as well as the dealer market. And this is really an indicator, a chart showing activity of new truck orders. And right now, if you look at the most recent paint, the last number we got, 15,562 orders of new trucks. If you go back in mid-year last year, really at the end of June,
it was insane.
We're at 50,000. I mean, look at how, it's a mountain. That is the Rocky Mountains. It's not the Appalachian. That is a massive, massive jagged edge right there. And so you can see just how many trucks were ordered. So one of the things that people talk a lot about is spot market exposure. The large fleets will say they're not overly exposed to spot market, but they do buy a lot of trucks. And so you should see a very big difference between spot rate data and new truck orders. They shouldn't correlate that tight. But one of the things that we found completely changed, I think, that point of view. In fact, what I did over the weekend, or what we did collectively over the weekend, was overlay DAT's spot rate assessments against new truck order data. And I think this is just fascinating when you look at the chart. In fact, you'll have to step back just a bit to see it because the screen is so big. But look right here at the green is DAT's spot rates. The blue are new truck orders, Class 8 trucks, which are Class 8 are what the big, it's the big 18-wheelers.
You got the five-year spread.
We got over a 5-year time frame, and you can see the green leads the blue, but they're almost identical charts. They're just time shifted by about a month. What's fascinating about that is it demonstrates that new truck orders and spot rates are incredibly correlated. In fact, this chart is as humongous correlated as any I've ever seen. And so I think that's just, it's so fascinating when you look at it.
It is, and it's interesting that in spite of all that we're talking about with capacity and how high it has been, that it is ticking back up. So
again, if you look at that, this is the blue is new truck orders.
Right.
That's spot rates. There was a tick in spot rates, and now it's ticking down. So we're seeing the market conditions change, and we're seeing a lot happen with it. But these are really tight correlations. And Zach, the Sultan of Sonar, on the chart of the week, goes into this deeper on the site. Encourage you to read his explanation because this sometimes move a little quick. But I think it's one of the most fascinating facts that we found.
I do too. I think that's we talk about spot markets also lead contracted rates in certain ways. They can influence that. So what an interesting comparison and correlation. Mind blown a little bit right there. Thanks, Craig.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here, and we will be back tomorrow. Full tour day tomorrow.
All right, full tour.
The day to our new offices and this is where the action's happening.
No pressure on getting everything straight and getting out of the boxes in time. Awesome to have an appearance from our CEO and founder. Wow, that's some pretty cool data. What do you make of that, Sultan?
No, I love this data set because it shows you just how fast that the trucking market responds to getting additional revenue. Because what's happening is all this new revenue, like what really has happened before the spot market sees any of this activity is that contracted carriers have seen optionality increase over time. So they're diving down the route guides. The shippers are diving down the route guides. And what happens is increasing levels of service and increasing rates go through the route guide. So it's like carrier number 1, $2 a mile, carrier number 2, $2.10 a mile, etc. So the rates are actually increasing before they get to the spot market here, what you see here. So the carriers are seeing additional revenues, not just through additional rate revenue, but also through utilization. So when the market actually gets a lot hotter, it happens faster than we actually see it in the spot market.
I can tell that you're pretty jazzed about this. Yeah, it's one of those things too. We bring in some data. We try to bring in daily data. There's weekly, there's monthly, but it goes to show you that the markets, they're sensitive, they're responsive. Things are literally happening every single day, and that is why we bring to you what is happening right now. What did you have up your sleeve in your bag of tricks for what is happening right now?
So if we go over to the map over here in a second. So yeah, so we've been talking a lot about how Los Angeles has been leading the country, and I've got the head haul index pulled up here, so it's going to be a little bit different view of looking at the country.
I'm surprised by some of what I'm seeing here.
Yeah, so we've been talking a lot about how this area of the country has really been heated right now.
Yeah.
And the head haul index is not necessarily going to tell us like this is where all the volume is. It's showing us the market balance as it pertains to outbound versus inbound loads. Well, over the last several months, this area right here has been dark blue.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the time you're getting a lot more outbound loads over inbound. Well, this last week, this is the weekly change in head haul index. So anything that goes red Doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be a backhaul market today, but it's becoming more of a backhaul market than it was last week, 7 days ago.
And how do we explain this?
Look at this right up
This
here.
is the head haul market?
No. This is actually still a backhaul market, but it's becoming a lot more head haul.
Okay.
And what happens?
But blue doesn't mean head haul.
Blue means
Right,
head haul. That means carriers love going into head haul markets.
Yes.
Carriers hate going into backhaul markets. Well, it doesn't necessarily mean that they want to avoid the Los Angeles market and go into this market. It just means the dynamic is shifting right now. You're seeing a lot more inbound.
What's the explanation? The shifting, the head of tariffs, the shifting to
So,
warehousing?
That tariff impact that we've been talking about is starting to cool off a little bit. At least they're stopping the repositioning. There's still a lot of volume coming out of LA, Southern California area, and there actually is a little bit more volume coming out of the Northern California area. But what's slowing down is all the freight movement in between these markets. Because this is one of the biggest markets for LA to ship into, just like Phoenix and this Ontario, the Imperial Valley. All this freight has been coming into these warehouses off the coast because it's very expensive, very crowded down here. And now things are starting to settle back down. You're starting to see a lot less freight moving into these backhaul areas.
And of course, I mean, I know you're going to give us an overview here. We got 135, we've broken it up into 135 key market areas. I'm not sure, is this the Joliet?
This is Indianapolis.
Indianapolis. Where's Joliet?
Joliet is up here, right south of Chicago. You see Chicago actually becoming a little bit more backhaul right now. Detroit, very volatile market, if you will. A lot of
What's going on with Indianapolis? Why is that such a head haul market right now?
You're getting a lot more outbound loads in relation to inbound loads right now. So carriers would love to go into Indianapolis this week, or at least a lot more so than they would have last week.
Okay.
What I find interesting though is down here. You see how dark red Dallas and Houston are?
It is surprising because you would think with seasonality stuff that it would be heating up.
You know, Dallas and company don't really start showing their full cards until probably mid-May, June. But it had been showing a sign of life, and they're still showing decent signs of life in outbound volume. What's happened though is inbound volume has increased significantly into the Dallas market. So a lot of the time, I never thought about freight in terms of, well, you know, there's a lot of outbound volume coming out, but I never thought about, well, what if there's an equal amount of inbound volume?
For a while as an adjustment maybe.
Exactly, because that means that there's going to be more trucks available in that market. Right now, this is becoming a lot less conducive for carriers to go into. Big, sharp decrease, and it's because there's a lot of inbound freight going into Dallas right now. Last week, we talked a lot about Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Pennsylvania was a hot market. That's starting to deteriorate again. The market is starting to shift back down and cool back off. So we're seeing a lot of reversing trends.
The biggest surprises, I'm going to say, you would typically think head haul market, you would think head haul market, head haul market, head haul market.
Yeah.
And we've got red, 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 and white.
Yeah.
And speaking of white, if most of the map is white, it's just neutral? Is that just what it means?
Yeah, it's not changing as much as you would, some of these darker colored markets are over the course, because this is on a scale and it's all relative. But these white markets are a little bit calmer than the rest of the country.
Gotcha. Okay.
So if we go to the next chart, I kind of wanted to point out one of the markets that I thought was most interesting in terms of really declining volume. This Pittsburgh market right here. This is the outbound tender volume index for Pittsburgh. This took one of the sharpest declines of the last week. Pittsburgh, super hot last week, outbound volume, and all of a sudden just collapses.
Fell off the face of the freight planet.
35% decrease in the last 7 days in terms of volume. And to my point about Pennsylvania being a super hot market last week, we were telling people carriers should feel good about going into that market, lots of volume, lots of activity. This week, that trend's starting to reverse.
People are fleeing.
I mean, getting out of the area. And then just to wrap things up, I'm going to show the outbound tender market share tree map here, just to give a broad picture.
Love this tree map.
This is one of my favorites. This is how I like to start my week. The outbound tender market share tree map. You see Ontario over there in LA, Los Angeles starting to actually pick back up in terms of volume.
Kind of gray though, not huge changes.
Not huge jumps. Atlanta starting to pick up. Harrisburg, again, Pennsylvania.
They're just running out of Pennsylvania as fast as they can with their hair's on fire.
Joliet, a huge market going down. Do you remember how Houston and Dallas were red on the head haul map?
Yeah.
But yet they're showing up here? It's because there's a lot more inbound going in there.
Uh-huh.
A lot more inbound.
The analysis of Zach Strickland coming in strong.
Yeah, they got a hot market, but it's still going inbound. There's Indianapolis. Market share is actually coming down, but their inbound decreased.
Okay.
So market balance.
Market balance indeed. That's what I'm seeing here.
Yeah, Philadelphia down negative 1.2%.
Any markets that are they getting small? Like Atlanta remains such a big market, but it hasn't been doing much. I'm just wondering, like, are there any markets shrinking, any markets expanding that we've seen on this tree map?
This dynamic has stayed relatively calm over the last month and a half or so. Okay. What we're waiting on is that big southern push. That's why we were excited about Dallas and Houston and Atlanta. And then last week we thought Pennsylvania was going to be a big kind of, maybe that's starting to turn because that's early. We shouldn't see that kind of volume coming out of Pennsylvania just yet. But we look to the south here this time of year to start picking up those volumes as construction starts kicking in. People are getting out of their houses, retail starts to pick back up. Also, you get a lot of inventory into the retail stores for the spring seasonal pushes.
Wow, that is a great overview for what is happening right now. Zach Strickland on a Monday, not bringing us the Monday blues, because you know why? He's excited, spring is happening, and it's like he was just, everything was just kind of boring for Zach for a while. And now, now it's like he's excited and he's on fire, and we're on fire, and we are enjoying bringing it to you each and every day right here at 4 o'clock. Check us out on social media. If you're cool and hip, you want to do it on Instagram, you want to spread the love on Twitter, that would be great. If you're just like a seasoned pro, want to stay on LinkedIn, anything will do. Also, please be sure to subscribe to our channel. And by the way, if you are interested in getting a demo for Sonar, you can just go to the FreightWaves site, /Sonar. We'll be sure to get you into the queue and get you the training or customization that you might be interested in. So in the meantime, thanks for tuning in. Stay safe out there, and don't worry, be happy.